Okay, I'm pleased to welcome you to the 71st meeting of this association. My name is David Pyle. I'm your Executive Secretary and Treasurer, and my first business is to give you a report as the Secretary Treasurer. We had a very good year last year financially. Our net worth increased by a little over 20%. That's largely due to two things. One was an accounting glitch at Wiley Blackwell, where they, I guess their auditor forced them to change their reporting a little bit, and so revenues got shifted from the third quarter into the fourth quarter, and we have a fiscal year that ends at the end of the third quarter. So money's got shifted to this fiscal year in that case. And the other one is, of course, as you might guess, that our investment portfolio got a nice big unrealized capital gain. Okay, our membership totals have held really fairly steady. Our library subscriptions, in fact, have gone down over the past few years, but this last year, a substantial increase in them, which is very encouraging since that's where all the money comes from. But our active membership has fallen off a little bit, and I don't know what to do about that except to encourage you to encourage your colleagues to become members. The next annual meeting will be held in Chicago on January 6th through 8th, and future meetings are scheduled in San Diego for 2013 and in Philadelphia for 2014. We have these business relationships with a number of vendors. The main one is with Wiley Blackwell, the publisher, and John is going to talk to you a little bit about that relationship and what's going on there, since it's really a crucial one for the organization. We also have B Press, which does our online submissions for the journal, and SSRN that does the same thing for this meeting. You might ask, why don't we do it with one of them? Well, when we tried to get B Press to do it some years ago, they wouldn't do it. And then when we went back to them, due to some disappointments with SSRN, they failed the test. So we're still stuck with two vendors where we should have one. I think we're going to try to do something about that. Our relationship with JSTOR is excellent. We don't get a lot of money from our archive, but it's regular, and they are such a wonderful, important organization to our profession and all other scientific professions that it's a pleasure to work with them. And as John will tell you, we're hoping that we're going to work with them some more in the future. So that's my report. Thank you very much. Now I'll introduce our president, John Cochran, who will say some more.
Thanks, David. First, why don't you guys in the back come sit? We got plenty of room in front. I feel like I'm back to teaching MBAs and nobody wants to come sit in the front. It's okay. I won't call on you. First, let me report on the election. Rob Stambaugh is our new vice president. And to the board, Mitch Peterson, Paula Sapienza, and Raman Upal have been elected. Our new fellow is Milt Harris, and Darrell Duffy will automatically join as a fellow now that he's no longer past president. I'd like to thank lots of people. First, the retiring board members, Will Getzman, Toby Moskowitz, and Annette Bissing-Jorgensen. Thank you for your service on the board. Marty Gruber is our NBR representative. Thank you. And Stephen Buser is our historian, who's done a lot of work. Above all, of course, we need to thank David Pyle. What we learn on the board and as in the president-vice president track is that this association only runs because of David's hard work. So thank you once again, David. Which one was it? Aha, sorry, my notes are wrong. I've already made my first typo of the night. Mitch Peterson's a great guy, but it was Lasse Peterson who was elected to the board. Thank you both, Mitch and Lasse. At the board meeting, we took a number of actions. We've voted on nominating committees for next year's board and vice president, for the Morgan Stanley Award, which will be handed out next year. One of our biggest issues is our relationship with Wiley, the publisher of the Journal of Finance and manager of the web page. David and I have spent a lot of time talking to Wiley and JSTOR. We believe the JSTOR current scholarship program is something we really want to be part of, and so we are negotiating hard with Wiley to do that, along with a bunch of other issues. So conditionally, Wiley will continue to be our publisher, so long as we can work it out that you can also get current stuff on JSTOR. We are looking for a number of people. So there's a search for a new editor of the Journal of Finance going on. Rick Green is running that. And unfortunately, David has announced that he would like to retire. We would like him not to, but he really wants to. So we are going to start a search for a new executive secretary and treasurer, and the whole internet operation remains alive, though finding, you can't replace David, but finding someone to succeed him is very high on our list. Those are the actions of the board. Next will be Raghu Rajan.
Thank you. I have to report on the program. We received 1,402 submissions to this year's program. This is an all-time high, about 3% higher than last year. And we had 178 papers in 50 regular AFA sessions and one joint session with the AFE. Now, one change we made this year was to carve out 4 new sessions, and I'll talk about them a little later. But despite the additional sessions, the acceptance rate remained about 12.8%, which was the rate last year. What that means is more sessions had 4 papers in them rather than 3 papers. That made up the difference. And to some extent, this gives me confidence that we sort of have a certain line above which once papers fall, they do get selected. And session chairs made this decision on their own. We had appropriate amounts of papers in the sessions. Now, as far as the special sessions go, we've had 2 so far. One of them was a panel on the financial crisis, which was chaired by Renee Stolz, and I thought that went very well given the attendance at that panel. The second was the AFA lecture, which was given by Andre Schleifer. This is something that is going to become, hopefully, an annual event, and I think that, too, was very well attended. Tomorrow, we will have a panel on ethics, which is chaired by Luigi Zingales, and I'd urge many of you to show up for that. And the 4th session was a special session which is on the biology of finance. It has a whole bunch of interesting papers on these issues. The idea behind these special sessions was to get more timely, more relevant discussions, things that aren't necessarily contained in the regular submissions. And I think as far as we know so far, they do seem to have been a success. There are some glitches in the creation of programs. We've already heard about the software problems. And let me start by apologizing for those of you who got an email up front before the program committee even got the papers, which asked you to be a discussant in the program. And thanks to all of you who agreed to this random allocation. And sorry if we couldn't accept at that time. We are trying to fix the glitches. We are very aware of the software problems, and hopefully next year or the year after we'll have a better program which eliminates these glitches. So let me end by thanking all the program chairs who made this a very successful program so far. And yes, and for those of you who missed some of the special sessions, we will have them on the AFA website. For those of you who can't attend the session tomorrow and want to watch it real time, you can watch it. There will be a webcast of the ethics and finance session. With that, let me turn it over to Sheridan Titman.
Okay. For a number of years, the AFA has been supporting PhD students to come from, as it turns out, all over the world to attend the AFA meetings. This year, we supported 98 students who came from North America, Europe, Asia, Australia, from actually great distances, and hopefully they had a great time. We, as part of the PhD project, as we call it, we organize a panel discussion where we talk about future research in finance, and I was very pleased that we had Raghu on the panel, along with Toby Moskowitz, Leonard Kogan, and Rob Stambaugh. Okay, next year, Rob is going to be organizing this effort, and you should encourage your students to apply. The students should be students that are not going to be on the job market next year, but who will be on the market the following year. So the idea is that the year prior to going on the job market, that's the year where it's most useful to go to the AFA meetings, see how things work, get ideas for your dissertation, and go to the meetings the following year better prepared to be on the job market. So one thing that, again, I've been asked to do by John is, and he suggested that maybe everyone can follow Ivo's lead and fill in on the seats in the first 4 or 5 rows. There's plenty of seats available, so there's no reason why you guys should be standing back there. Let's see if we can get Ivo to come. Very good. Having humiliated you guys enough, I'd like to turn things over to Cam Harvey, who will talk about the Journal of Finance.
Thank you, Sheridan. This is my 5th report as editor of the Journal of Finance. One more to go. So let me tell you about the journal this past year. Basically, our submissions went up slightly. Total submissions 1,170, and that's slightly different than last year. The turnaround time is about the same as it was last year. So the median turnaround decreased from 45 days to 43 days. The average also declined. So we're in about the same range. If you note, there's a jump in turnaround 2009, 2010, and that's purely because in 2009 we changed the way that we counted submissions. So the style revisions, the kind of like standard editorial revision, we don't count that as a submission. So that's the reason that there's a bit of a jump. But again, I think 43 days is pretty good. I did this last year, looking at the tail of papers. So on December 31st, on the left-hand side, you see the longest time in review. And I want to just comment on that a little bit. Notice the first 2 have already been decided, so they're kind of scratched off. But the one that's 187 days, there's sometimes a good reason for it. So that paper had a negative first-round referee report, and we actually sent out sequentially for another review. And essentially, the total time in review turned out to be 187 days. So, I think that the author would probably like to choose that option of lateness for a second draw. And that's often what's happening. The other thing is that input will be harvested from the associate editor, the co-editor, and my markup too. For many of the papers. So I think that we're in pretty good shape in terms of, and this is total days in review. And you can see by the end of the list, it's only 114 days, which is, I think, pretty good. And that actually, if I just go back to the 100 or more days, and you see that, but you don't really see what's behind it, and I think the tail is pretty informative. The probability of first round invite revision is about the same as last year. It's slightly higher, so it's 12.5%. This is my preferred measure of you know, what the first round decision actually is. So 12.5%. This is a new graph to this year, and you can see that there's been definitely kind of a change in my policies. And essentially what's happening is a huge amount of effort is being put into the first revision. So as I said, referee, the associate editor, the editors are involved, and what we're really trying to do is to get that paper resubmitted and it's ready for acceptance. And today, well, at least for 2010, over 50% of the papers were accepted after the first revision, and 85% were accepted after the second revision. And it's sharply different than what was happening in 2007 and 2008. So it is a different policy and hopefully a successful one. I also present every year some metrics of impact. And this year, the Journal of Finance did really well. And what I do is I look at all the econ journals, and Journal of Finance is included there. And for some reason, the RFS isn't, but I put the RFS into the list, as you'll see. So of all the econ journals, the Journal of Finance has the third highest total cites. So, and that's basically citations to all Journal of Finance articles through the history of the Journal of Finance in 2009 by all journals. So that's 18,000. And then the impact factor, they report two. One of them is the 1 year impact factor, and then there's the 5 year impact factor. And that's a more recent measure of citation of recent articles. And you can see that for the 1 year impact factor, the Journal of Finance ranked 7th. And for 5 year impact factor, we are number 4, for whatever that means. It's a metric that I guess, you know, has some flaws. Okay, so let me talk just very briefly about initiatives before we get into the prizes. There are mainly 3 things on my plate. Number 1 is ongoing negotiations about a draft replication policy. And we've got lots of feedback from people in the profession, and we've been very cautious on this to try to develop a policy that makes sense, that doesn't impose too many costs, and that is ongoing. So we don't have a policy right now, but it has hundreds of emails and conversations on this policy, so it's very much on our radar screen, and something hopefully will be resolved fairly soon. Number 2 is also some progress on a disclosure policy. So it's one thing that finance journals don't have that probably they should have. And I've got a draft policy right now that I'm circulating for input. And actually, if any of you are interested in that, just email me and I'll send it to you. I'm looking for comments. And essentially what it does is, for the things that are just obvious in terms of certain research is funded, that needs to be disclosed. I informally do this when a paper is accepted. I ask the authors if there's a potential conflict, but this will be more formal. The third thing that I'm working on, which is no small job, is kind of a detailed procedures manual for the Journal of Finance. So it's my job, it's the associate editors, it is the referees, Wendy's responsibilities, and the copy editor, all the way through the chain. And I think this is just good risk management to have a policy like this. And it is, as I said, a lot of work. I also think that it will really help in terms of the transition to the new editor in July 2012. So those are the initiatives. There's obviously a long list of thank yous every year. Let me just go through a few of them. The prize sponsors, Brattle Group and Smith Breeden, who will come up in just a few minutes. I thank you for supporting the Journal of Finance. Wendy, she does an amazing job. And hopefully, next year in Chicago, she will be here so you can actually put name to face. So she does a great job of sheltering John Graham and myself from a lot of administrative responsibility, and so that we can focus on the editorial, which is what we like doing. So she does, I think, a really great job. My executive committee has been great in terms of if there's an important issue, I email them very quickly. The executive committee of the AFA gets back, and there's also the editorial advisory committee. So there's a kind of a formal process, something we need to talk about. I get the feedback very quickly, and the feedback is very wise. And then there's John Graham, the co-editor, a great help to me, and serves many roles at the Journal of Finance. The associate editors, we have a lot of associate editors, and they have really stepped up to basically do a job differently than you would do for many other journals. So they're very much involved in the paper from the time it gets the revise and resubmit all the way to acceptance. So they're taking ownership of the papers, and that's great. I also have a group of advisory editors, people that help out from time to time that aren't on the masthead, and I really think I need to thank them too. Finally, the referees. It's great that we've got a culture of like fast turnaround, but with quality. It's not too fast. And given the tail is so minimal, I really thank you for that. It really makes the system work.